Fancy intro music, yeah! Woo! Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel where today we got two big topics to cover, with one being things that have just appeared in the store, because I know everybody out there is going, should I spend $100 on TOS Scotty? Not going to tell you for about 45 more seconds. Also, we want to talk about PVE crews in the game and talk about the kind of the culture of the game, what the game is really centered around. And while I do believe it's a PvP/war game, it does feel like what we do most of the time is getting a little bit neglected at this point with all the new officers coming out, and we'll talk about that. But first, I figure we could cover these two new packs that are in your store. Spending $100 on any game is a lot of money.
It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay? No more.
Spending $100 on a singular officer in a game is also a lot of money. So they'd have to be worth it. So you got TOS Scotty right here. You got TOS Chekov, and are either worth it? Now, I haven't made a video of each individual officer, and there's kind of a reason for that. And I guess I could make one if y'all really wanted it, but TOS Scotty's pretty self-explanatory. A plus warp range to explorers, which honestly, this is beneficial to you if you are, say, in the high 30s and you're working on getting into deep space and you're trying to push, that enterprise deeper, that jellyfish, or that wonderful discovery with its summing and everything. If you're trying to get further into the game, then this can be useful. However, is it worth $100? I would say no. Remember that Captain's Maneuvers, which is the garbage scow Captain's Maneuver, cannot be improved by upgrading the officer. So purchasing it for more shards won't do you any good. You're naturally probably going to unlock this anyway if you got the premium battle pass or if you've been going through the various events and things like that. And then the secondary is the 10% to repair cost efficiency. This isn't really worth using because if you're playing, PvE grinding or PvP, you honestly could better use that slot for something else. Something that actually, maybe affects the 3 phases of battle that we've talked about before when it comes to creating damage and how that gets dispersed inside the game. It's just really not that much value. And then I think more importantly, comparing it to the other packs. So you can see you get 10,500 of the Ultra Recruit Gotcha tokens, 2.7 of the Federation credits, some Latinum, etc. But if you scroll over, and we'll look at Chekov in a second, but if you just scroll over, now granted this is going to depend on what server you're on, the age of your server, etc., for the value that you're going to see in this pack. But if I come all the way over here to my Ultra Federation Recruit, you see I'm getting over double the amount of Latinum. I'm getting way more Federation credits, more Ultras, and also getting Uncommon Gas, which has such a nice little throw in for a random pack. Once again, if you're on a brand new server, your value at level 39 is probably not equal to this. But the point being that $100 pack for a singular officer is a really tough sell. And when it comes around for something like, say, a Harrison, I can honestly see that having value. But when it comes to these two officers, I can't. And that brings me to Chekov for $100, and that is 10 plus 2 impulse speed on explorers. And I can see this one actually being useful in territory capture. This actually has a PvP usage. But once again, is that worth $100? I'm going to say no.
It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay? No more.
If you get these officers naturally, fine. And I've actually been able to do that going through the battle pass and going through the events that we've had this month. You'll see that I have a couple. Well, I've got one of these already, and that's TOS Chekov. TOS Scotty, I'm basically halfway just from doing pulls. Then I've got Uhura McCoy Sulu. So not really worth it to me. Hopefully that answers your question. Now let's get into, didn't even mean to leave that screen. Let's get into PvE, because we're at a point in the game where this is the setup. Like, this behind me is what we use. It's it. I'll move my face so you can, just in case you didn't know, Pike, Moreau, Shin. That's what it's all about. That's everything in the game. It's just about this crew. I mean, that's just all there is to it. That's not a negative. It's just, that's what we use. And I think one issue that we're running into is that, more importantly, while the PvP in the game continues to get looked at, this isn't. And there's no reason that should be the only set of PVE officers. And yes, there are a couple more. Remember the video I made about 3 hostile groups? There's a Borg one that I recommend, which is 7, 9, and 5. Or you could also use 7, 8, and 9. There's also the Cadet Uhura Cadet McCoy combo, where you could do Cadet Uhura Cadet McCoy into Talon while running Pike Moreau Chen. Yes, that's the 3 hostile set. I just gave you a complete reason to not watch the video. But this is the main. Yet I can give you 24 PvP sets right now. And the reason it's so important is I want to bring up the events and everything. So let's look at this. So right now we got a solo leaderboard for officers, but after that, Plunders of War. This is PvE. This is not a PvP event. It does have a PvP element, but most people are completing this with the PvE option, not with the PvP option. I mean, do you know anybody that's doing the PvP for this? Not many. You can boost and do it, but most people are running out and killing separatist bosses. So let's keep on moving. We've got the Leviathan, which is a mission, which is obviously PvE. You've got your daily events, which are going to, here's your Civus Pacum Parabellum, which is a PvE event. Let's keep on hopping back out. I don't need to really prove it to you guys. Y'all know that it's a PvE-oriented event game, but here's your dailies. Every single one of these is PvE dailies, and it takes a while to complete, especially with one crew. And, we've got to the point where I've got 5 docks. You might have 4. You might even have 3. But you can't load out every one of your ships to be efficient in grinding in PvE. And I think that's a little bit of a detriment to the game. And there are ways to add a fresh take to this. There could be, for example, we've got morale, burning, and hull breach right now. What if there was a 4th inert ability that we added to the game that was specifically for PvE grinding? Pipe Moreau Chin is basically OP as it is because you essentially negate 96% of the energy damage of a ship. So you're going against a Federation transport, super easy. Super easy if you're a low-level grinding explorers and those traders as well. But the big thing is this is still the only thing. And I think that adding some more would add a little bit more vitality to the game and actually make the daily grind easier for everybody instead of them using one ship in a system. It would be nice if you could, efficiently put in 3 or 4 ships in a system to grind it out instead of having to rely on, say, a PvP crew or throwing on your morale crew and just realizing that you're going to take a lot more damage and only one ship's going to be very efficient at the grind. Another one that was suggested, and I was talking to Gregor, and we have great officer chats, was a Curon styled officer and a nice graphical error. But a Curon styled officer where you see no negotiations. Curon has a 50% chance of automatically recharging kinetic weapons for the first turn. Having a type of an officer that, say, procced every round, but maybe only added 1 attack or a low amount of attack to then improve against hostiles. Similar to kind of how Chin works, but make an actual captain out of it and make it useful to really the vast majority of players who, even if they have pike or don't have pike, something in the middle, because you've got the cadets, then you've got pike. Adding a 3rd one maybe in the middle. I'm not saying add an officer that's overpowered and makes the pike Moreau combo useless. Hopefully you never make a change to that, Scopely, because that's one of the few things in this game you got right. But when we're talking about in general, when it comes to making things easier for the players and more incentive to actually complete some of these events, more officers centered around that would help. You do have a couple like Gala, Talon, Chin, but other than that, if we go through all these officer sets, almost everything we're looking at is PvP. Look at the morale crew up here at the top. This is all PvP oriented. Look at the hull breach crew, same thing. The burning crew, same thing. Look at the helmet crew. Once again, this is a PvP oriented setup, more so than probably the previous ones. Then you move on to the Romulans. All of this is PvP, with one exception was Tau, but well, that got disabled, so that doesn't work anymore. Then you got the Shakedown crews, Leslie kinda for a one-shot PvE grind, but that's a very specific usage that hopefully they never mess with and patch. There's really nothing there. And we've even got multiple mining officers at this point where we have several versions of T'Pring with Dupont and one of 10 and Joachim. Yet we still don't have any additives in the PvE grinding aspect of the game, which is what most of us do every day we log in, and that's the majority of what we do. So this is kind of one of those things where I am encouraging you to jump on this video, comment down below, like it, subscribe, and then start spreading the word and talking about this, because I think we've seen them in recent months, really over the last year, listen more to feedback and listen more to the suggestions from players. I know it's not as much as you want, and I agree with you. We'll continue to gripe. Just like I think it's silly that there's a $100 pack for a TOS Scotty. But regardless of that, I think it's important that we try to push for these type of things added to the game, because they do listen to good ideas and they do try to implement them eventually. Keyword eventually, coming soon to a theater in 2023. But But if you got ideas for officers that include PVE grinding, drop them down below. If you agree that we need it, like the video. And if you don't agree, for whatever reason, tell me why we shouldn't have more PVE officers. No idea why you wouldn't agree. That sounds ridiculous. But if you do, help me out. Spread this out with your friends, your family, your alliance, and every Discord server, Facebook, Reddit that you're on. And maybe we can get some momentum going and make this happen. Only because of y'all, though. Live long and prosper. Stay safe, other Space Cowboys. We'll catch you on the next one. See ya.
Remember, Spock doesn't go on the Enterprise. Live long and prosper. All the best.
An even better outro than the intro for the Empire and glory to your house.